Hello and welcome to the New Rules of Sex Summit. My name is Lauren Brem and I am so excited to welcome Lou Paget today, author of 5 best-selling books and a certified ASEC sex educator. Welcome, Lou.
Why, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, so you are the author of so many books, and especially books that talk about how to be a great lover. And so I just wanted to start out today to ask you, what do men and women need to know to be great lovers?
Well, let's just start with, how do most people get education about sexuality? They typically get it from their equally ill-informed friends and peers, or they get it from someone on the internet where a lot of people are going to get things, but you have no idea of the veracity of the information. So one of the first things they need to know is, are they truly interested for themselves? Or are they interested because they want to attract somebody? Because if that's the motivation, it's probably not the best one.
Well, I think, one thing that people don't talk about is how much we all want to be great lovers for our partners. It builds self-confidence and self-esteem, and we know that we're going to be good when we know that our partners are going to enjoy what we're doing, but they don't go to get the education because it's so taboo.
Well, we're all born of this. That's one of the things that had me start doing my seminars, which is where my books came from. The books came out of that, because I couldn't find the information for me. And I had a hard sciences background, so I knew where to look. Now this is, pre all of the internet. So I'm like rabid when I go to get information. For many people, and how I started doing my seminars is my roommate was at UCLA med school. And she said, "You have got to share this information with my girlfriends." I said, "For God's sake." I said, "You're at med school." She said, "They don't teach us a thing." I said, "Seriously?" She said, "Nothing." And where do most people go if they have an issue in the area of sexuality? 1 of 3 places: a therapist, a physician, or someone of faith. And none of them get a good grounding in sexual health education. Now, the other thing we don't talk about when it comes to sex, we'll talk about all the bad things, but we won't talk about the good things. It's just not done.
Yeah, we don't talk about, I say that a lot too in my work. We don't talk about the specifics, whereas with other things in life, we'll share the details so that other people can reap the benefits of, oh, did you know you can do this, or this website's great, but when it comes to sex, we don't talk about it. We don't share, so then we don't learn from each other's stories. And it's one of the reasons I was so candid in my first book about my own sexual experiences, because I've learned from stories, from, even just, most of us learn from movies. I think we see sex scenes in movies and it seems so fluid, and we forget that these are staged, fake sex scenes. We learn from pornography, and then there are books like yours. There are some cultures where women and men still pass on information to each other. They masturbate in front of each other. When I was in Africa, in Zambia, the women would have a kitchen party for the woman who was about to be married, and they would show her the movements of sex and how to give herself pleasure and her partner pleasure.
Fabulous.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? And I always tell people,
that's the bachelorette party you want.
I know, right? And we lost that somewhere, and then now we go to strip clubs or bars or whatever.
And wear weird penises on our head, and it's like, really? Come on, ladies.
Not much of a sex education. So what would you tell someone, though, if someone was standing in front of you going, you are this sex, educator guru, like, I'm going to have sex with my partner tonight. I don't feel like I'm good at sex. What would you recommend for them?
I would probably start with, make sure that the two of you touch often. We are tactile beings, and having that touch, a squeezing of a shoulder, something, but it doesn't have to be that that's the signal to go and do something. But what it does do is, very rarely, we don't have a lot of permission to have physical touch culturally. As a matter of fact, we've made it illegal for most men to touch, period, right? And men are cuddle bugs. Well, let's talk about if we do heteronormativity. But most people want to be touched, and they want someone who likes them for them. Not necessarily for the size of their breasts or the size of their wallet or what their social standing is.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why you will see supermodels dating top athletes. Hello, the playing field's even.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I ask people to do, know how you like to be kissed.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is something that you may feel a little nervous about directing someone, but I can tell you how to do it like that.
Yeah.
Without someone feeling judged.
I love, okay, so these are two great points. So knowing how you like to be kissed, I have had to teach many a lover how to kiss, and you have to do it like very, gently and playfully, but, sometimes I'll use my hand to kind of get their lip to soften or to relax, or I say, ooh, I really loved it. Kiss me even slower than what you just did. And then I go, oh, I really like, and I've trained people how to be better kissers, how to touch me. And I think that's so important. And the other thing you said was about just remembering that people want to be with us. Like they want to be liked for who they are. They want to be with that person. And
not the shell that many people put out there.
Yeah. And I hear so many, especially women, because that's who I work with. They say, oh, no one's going to want to have sex with me till I have a better body, or, till I'm a better lover. I'm like, no, that is so not true. And people need to know that and just really show up. And I love this idea of just touch without going right for the genitals or right for, well, where is the erogenous zone? Like just touch and being together and it's so arousing. And
well,
people like, go ahead.
For most women, kissing is the thing that gets their motor running.
Mm.
And this is how I would tell someone, so there's no judgment about the kissing. Kiss someone, tell them how much you like kissing them, not anybody else, them.
Yeah.
Then back off and say, oh, that is just the best. Then look at them and go, will you tell me what it feels like to be kissed by me? So the first thing you've done is you've kissed them exactly the way you like.
Mm-hmm.
Then they will try to mimic what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not saying, you're not doing it the way I like, but then you show them and you go, oh, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were going to give someone direction about anything, whether it's the touch that they're doing or how they're holding you, use one word. Don't use a full sentence. The one word is then heard as guidance versus when you use a full sentence like, I don't like that. That goes over like lead balloon. Like, and the other thing you have to be aware of is, where are you in your life? Do you have an incredibly busy life? Do you have this career? Do you have children? Do you have things that eat up your time? The biggest equalizer we all have, 24 hours a day. No one gets any more. Nobody gets less. You can try and have someone do stuff so you can do other things, but still, you also need to have the time to be able to switch sort of who you are and who you're identifying as being. Because if you come in the door and you're immediately deluged with things you have to do, it's pretty difficult to switch from responsibility to partner mode. Mm-hmm. And that's a real thing for many parents, particularly if they have younger children. Mm-hmm. They have so many things they have to do. Mm-hmm. And then at some point, they're, crawl up the stairs or go wherever it is, and they're just like, oh, I just want to fall asleep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you have to know where you are in your life. And you also have to have the intention of being a great lover. Mm. I will tell you that what people have told me, women and men, and I've lectured all over the world. My books are in, 29 languages, 60 countries. And what people have told me is their best lovers have not been the best looking, nor have they had the best bodies. But what they have had is attention and intention, and they listened. Mm-hmm. And someone says, oh, well, I need to have a guy who's got, he has to be at least 7 inches. Listen, the size is one part of it. If he doesn't know what he's doing with it, why? And the same thing, I've had men tell me they've been with, Playboy models or this, and these women don't do anything. Mm-hmm. They just sort of lie there. Yeah. And they're kind of like, it's kind of like, you have to do everything for them. Mm-hmm. That is not called partnered sex. Yeah. The other thing we have is we have many people thinking from social media that they have to have a particular look, as they said, oh, no one's ever going to be with me. You have to be realistic about who you are. Do you have health issues? Do you have money issues? Whatever those are, they will eventually come to the surface. They can't help it.
Yeah.
But what people want is they want someone who wants them.
Mm-hmm.
And for great lovers, it doesn't necessarily mean about intercourse either.
Mm-hmm.
Because some of the best partnered and greatest intimacy that
Mm-hmm.
people have is when they're not having intercourse.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the one question I will never answer,
Yeah.
what's the average number of times people should be having sex?
Mm.
And why don't I answer that? Because someone's going to get beaten up.
Yeah. Well, and the great thing about Kinsey's research from all those years ago is we know there's a huge spectrum of normal, and
Mm-hmm.
I think we're finally realizing that that's why it's so important to find sexually compatible partners and to really have that conversation up front, so that negotiating how that sexual relationship is going to be. So that needs can get met. My dissertation was interviewing men on their experiences with sex workers. And I can tell you that what you said about people want someone that wants them, that's what the men want from the sex workers too. They don't just want to pay and have this experience or that. They want to feel that woman wants them, finds them sexy, is enjoying them. They want to feel a connection.
Right.
And we know women want to feel adored by their partners, but men want to feel adored by their partners. And we want someone that's present, engaged in sex, curious, wanting to learn what pleases us, and for women. And I totally agree. Some of my best lovers have been, surprising, it's been surprising what great lovers they are. And they've taught me things, and I've learned new things about myself while I'm with them. And I think it's really important, again, kind of going away from the media image that we have of sex, right? Because we're not having the kitchen parties in Zambia, and we're not in tribal cultures, listening to people having sex and kind of picking it up through the walls and such. We're watching it on the TV screen, and it looks so fluid and passionate. And then we get into our real sex lives.
Right.
Around and we're like, am I on the spot, or no, or do you like this, or ow, you slapped me too hard, or it's like
exactly.
And so if we're allowed to teach each other, which I think you really touched on, like as we go, that is how we become great lovers. We're not supposed to be like perfect out the door.
Let's be honest. We're all born with the ability, typically, to speak.
Yes.
But none of us are born speaking Swahili, Tagalog, or English. We learn. And we're all born of sexuality. So it's another form. When you are being intimate with someone, when you're making love, whatever term people like to use, it is your body saying what words cannot. And I think that's a powerful thing for people to remember. And it is about a communication and an ebb and a flow, but it's also, you have to have, if you don't want to be there, don't be there. Please. And don't fake. That is like giving really bad, corrupt information.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many times men have said to me, well, I've never been with a woman who faked. When I say that in my ladies' seminar, the room loses it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're doing it because they don't want to hurt the person's feelings. They know nothing's going to happen. But all that does is have them think, okay, I did it. Good.
Right. And this is a great segue into my next question for you, because I think a lot of women fake pleasure and orgasm because they're not having them. They know their partners are frustrated because, again, they want to feel like they're giving their partner pleasure and they're having that experience. They feel like they're withholding something from them. So, what do you say to women? Specifically, let's talk about women now, or people with vulvas and vaginas who have not experienced an orgasm. What do you share with them to help them?
Well, the first thing I would ask them is, have you masturbated? And if you haven't, would you be open to doing it? And because the best way to be able to guide someone, whether it's dancing, whether it's cooking, or whether it's with sex, is to be able to let them know what you like or what is pleasurable for you. Now, I will often recommend using, I will say, listen, if you're comfortable with it, use a vibrator. And You can use it as partnered, play, or you can use it for yourself to learn. Because many times, let's get really candid about, adult toys.
Yeah.
The majority of them are designed by men who do not have vulvas.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have a clitoris. So they're making something that is designed from what they copied from somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And it isn't the thing that is going to necessarily work. It could be too strong.
Mm-hmm.
And someone may not know how to use it.
Mm-hmm.
They may just think, okay, I'm supposed to just put it on the clitoris and that's not the thing that works.
Mm-hmm.
Male sexual response pattern is more like this. Orgasm, done.
Mm-hmm.
Female sexual response pattern is more build, plateau,
Mm-hmm.
and then go on to orgasm.
Mm-hmm.
So if it doesn't go, if there isn't a time when it can, like the sensation can drop off a bit,
Mm-hmm.
it may very well become too much, too quickly, and then it starts to hurt. At which point you cannot go back to, what was pleasurable.
Mm-hmm.
Edit point here for men.
Yeah.
I
was talking to a client this last week as well I've talked to a couple women who have experienced this with a vibrator where they say they quickly have this kind of little contraction orgasm. There's not a lot of pleasure with it. So I talk with them about, okay, can you practice edging where you get close and then you pull back? Because that's what you're describing, and really allow it to build, because the tissue's engorging with blood. It can build and build and build, and then you can explore other areas of your
breathing. Don't hold your breath.
Yes. And
don't hold your breath.
And I talk with women about fantasies a lot too, because I feel like, women are more, more open to getting sex toys these days, but I find they're like, wait, they don't feel permission to fantasize and really go into their sexual desires. And, what do you think is some of the reasoning for that women are so afraid to explore?
Because they think they're going to be judged, that it's, it's incredibly sophomoric. Why does that turn you on? Listen, our brain doesn't know why things turn us on. They just do. Mm-hmm. And if people say, oh, I can't deal with fantasy stuff, check out Halloween. Halloween is when you will often see people doing and wearing how they would like to present themselves sexually.
Yeah.
So, and I had one woman who
the sexy nurse and the sexy, and
everything. And this one woman said, oh my God, I want his Donald Duck. What does that say?
Right. I remember in high school how many men would dress as women for Halloween, and only now in my adulthood do I go, wow, men just never get a break from having to be the masculine archetype. And it's something I also write about in my first book, The New Rules of Sex. Like, men also want to be penetrated. They want to be explored all over their bodies. They want to be the feminine, and they want to relax and receive. And so I think you just touched on something really interesting. Like, we do have these parts, and I hear women say they come alive sexually on vacation. And I've never experienced, this sudden freedom on vacation, because I feel very free. But then it made sense to me, like, oh, there's suddenly something in their brain has turned on, like with Halloween, and gone, oh, now I can be sexual. So
right.
How do we bring that into our lives on a day-to-day basis?
And we don't have all of the 24-hour clock that is at home.
Yeah.
And chances are you don't have to take the kids to school. You don't have to do this. I can't tell you how many women I know who were struggling with fertility, trying to get pregnant, had done IVF, in vitro fertilization, they'd done ART, assisted reproductive techniques. They weren't getting pregnant. And one friend of mine, she got pregnant twice, both times when she went on vacation.
Oh,
and she had basically sort of like, oh, that's it, I'm giving up.
Yeah, I'm just going to go on vacation and have great sex.
Right, and she was not even thinking that was going to be possible. But let's go back to men and orgasms.
Okay.
One of the things that I also tell people is, do not have psychic sex. And that is thinking that the other person should read your mind.
Okay.
That's not a great place to start. But the other thing you have to be aware of, women and men touch differently. So women tend to touch, more lightly and more tentatively, because that's a function of estrogen versus testosterone. And men tend to touch more firmly and to action spots, because that's what they do with themselves. So that's often why when a woman says there or that's it, he speeds up.
Mm-hmm.
Because in his own pleasuring, he speeds up.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about male masturbation. I have had a number of ultrasound techs tell me that they know if it's a boy or a girl because the hands are between the legs. They're masturbating in utero.
How funny.
And anyone who's had a little boy, they know they've always got their hand down the front of their, of their little diaper.
Yeah.
So thinking that the same sensation is there for the other partner is one of the things that really trips men up. And people don't tell them that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what men have told me. It's a combination of three things:
Mm-hmm.
pressure and moisture when they enter a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And that it is so like off the charts for them.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that. That's why when, I'm answering a question for a gentleman who he's dealing with rapid ejaculation and he thinks that's the problem with his wife. It isn't. The real problem is they have a special needs kid and that is consuming her life. But the important thing about this is thinking that women are experiencing the same thing that a man would. She's experienced the same thing genitally the way a man is when he enters her. Couldn't be further from the truth. It's like, are you kidding me? Because the vagina is a state of potential. So it engorges with blood, swells, lifts up the uterus lifts up further into the abdominal cavity. It's a completely different building. And women often don't really understand how turned on they are, that their brain will shut things down. What's her name? Diamond. Oh, I think she's in Utah area. And she did the review of women looking at porn. And the women, no, it wasn't Diamond. She's in Toronto area. Anyways, what she did is she looked at how these women were responding mentally, and they also had a vaginal probe in to register lubrication. And interestingly enough, it was not, the hetero stuff that was the biggest turn on for them.
Yeah.
I mean, women were getting turned on equally by watching animals, not male on male, but she said, sorry guys, but women are getting turned on more by this than by you.
Yeah.
But their brains weren't saying that they were, but their bodies were.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing, many times women think they're supposed to have that, ba-ding, I'm so turned on, I'm going to leap you. And really what is happening is the female desire or libido thing doesn't actually click in until they're starting to do something. And at that point is like, okay, now I'm getting turned on. So we've been held to a male functional model of sexual pleasure and orgasm that is completely wrong.
Yeah.
Completely wrong.
So true. So true. I mean, if you think of kind of traditional masculine, feminine, and, I personally feel that I embody a lot of masculine and feminine, so I can relate to some of the kind of the typical male experience of sex and how I touch and things I like. But I think that, if we look at it traditionally and the masculine being more linear and more left brain and more direct, and the feminine being the opposite of that, it makes sense that what that research showed, that we're turned on by so many things. And I often find it really interesting to explore and give clients permission to explore being turned on by even the most random things. And I've also found what you said is true, that sometimes you don't think you're turned on or in the mood for sex, but if you just make time to be naked or cuddle or connect or breathe together, then all of a sudden that arousal kicks in. And then, again, the kind of traditional model is like, you need this much stimulation and it speeds up and you come like that, like you described. And but yet we see women have spontaneous orgasms in their sleep. And we know that we can bring ourselves to orgasm with our mind. And sometimes it can take an hour, and sometimes it can take 2 seconds. And sometimes you're touching the genitals and sometimes, or the clitoris, and sometimes you're not. And then there's all these different types. So I think, women need more permission to let their fantasies go way outside the box and let how they touch themselves go way outside the box, and to let men know, like you said, that we're not built the same way. And when we say you're on the right spot, keep consistent stimulation. Don't
Don't move.
stop, don't change us, please, for the
Right.
love of
I finally able to tell you that's it. And do you know what men have told me they hear when someone says that's it?
God.
We're there. They go like this. Am I there? Did I move from there? How do I get back to there? They're like, okay. Because they, the real thing they want to do truly is create pleasure for their partner.
Mm-hmm.
And many times when people are given the permission to not know, and this is what I will tell people. I said, look, in many areas of your life, you've been a beginner, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing about beginners. They're not expected to know.
Mm-hmm.
They're learning. And when you are with someone new, that's what you are. And even if it's, just someone for, a random, thing, hookup, you are still a beginner.
Mm-hmm.
But what I will also tell you, for the majority of people, have you ever been around those people who always say, oh, I'm so good?
Yeah.
That's marketing.
Yeah.
That's marketing.
Yeah.
Because the majority of people who are really good,
Mm-hmm.
you don't hear a word from them.
Mm-hmm.
They never brag. They're, the braggadocio does not come, trotting in the room.
Yeah.
They're just sort of like, I know what they have an idea of how to touch.
Yeah.
Or they will ask.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. Your attention to someone,
Mm-hmm.
without a doubt, is one of your most seductive behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what anyone tells you.
Mm-hmm.
That outfit may be great. It may be quite fabulous. But the thing that really, because when we're with someone else, it is an energetic exchange on a basic level. We are wet cell batteries. That's what we are.
Mm-hmm.
So any energy you're putting out to someone will likely come back. But it also has, with that attention, comes, and someone can say, wow, there is something about you. Quite frankly, you don't care what that is. You're just glad you got it, right?
Yeah.
And it isn't something. And so when someone says, how can I create the it factor?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can't.
Mm-hmm.
You have something. I'm an identical twin.
Oh.
And I have every variety of sister. Older, younger, identical twin. None of us are similar in the things that we like. Mm-hmm. And so I grew up knowing that who my sister was attracted to, I was never attracted to. And we never attracted the same group of friends. And, it wasn't that we didn't know who they were, but we didn't, when we were private school, you kind of got like a smaller group to choose from. Yeah. But when we, went to a public school, we never had the same group of friends. So I knew from the time I was like this big, a little unit, that what you have is completely unique. Yeah. It's not based on what you look like. Mm-hmm. It's not based on how much money your family has. It's not based on where you live. It is something that you have, because if it were, then my twin sister and I would have attracted exactly all the same people. And we didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's such an important message for everyone listening to this, from 18 to, 80 years old. If you're listening to this, to remember what a special, unique thing you are sharing. And it's not this sex is done this one perfect way. And you have to figure that out, and you have to, give a hand job or this and that in a certain way. It's just showing up as yourself, knowing your body through your own masturbation, knowing how to bring yourself to pleasure, how to hold back your orgasm, how to edge, how to, I think that's so important. And then that real interest and intention to bring pleasure to your partner. And
because that is one of the hottest things that people have said, is that the best lovers that they had weren't the best bodies, weren't the best looking.
Yeah.
And I didn't have, the same amount of money. And I had a woman who just recently, she's been widowed and has been for 10 years now, and had this amazing lover. And he could, she would just be, climbing the walls, but he's not acceptable for her because he doesn't have money.
Mm.
Now, not a value judgment, but that is what is important for her.
Yeah.
So again, as I said, you need to know where you are in your life, and you need to be honest about who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Now, just for a sec, let's bounce into the incels, the unintentionally celibate.
Okay.
And
I was wondering what that stood for.
it's the,
Unintentionally celibate?
yeah.
Wanting sex and not having it. Yeah.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
That is those are men. Listen, men being angry about women controlling the access to sex, that's been going on for forever.
Mm-hmm.
Let us not say that it is something from 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that we have to look at is the cultural impact of this is, once again, I mean, we've got guys that they're borderline personalities. They may be on the spectrum. They may be whatever it may be. They're not socially connected to people, particularly to women.
Mm-hmm.
And their fury about this is the thing that is having them act out. It's, to me, it's the angry portion of the pickup artists.
Mm-hmm.
The really angry guys.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a very similar attitude that they have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's like a whole other conversation. But yeah, it's important to remember that in the same way that we want sex, other people are out there wanting sex. We're trying to find people that we connect with, not just sexually, but that emotional, social connection that leads to sex. And I think it's important to remember that both women and men are extremely sexual, want to have sex. It's not like anyway, there's a lot of old stories about women not being sexual and kind of being taken from. And I think we're in the process of recreating that whole narrative.
That narrative on it. Yes, I would agree.
Yeah. So speaking of a narrative that is very limited, I think, and, again, this summit is for all ages, but, sex and pregnancy and postpartum, I think women who haven't had babies yet, and it's important to know this. I think for men, it's important to know this. And for grandparents, it's important to know this. Like, what happens? Who is the pregnant woman sexually? Who is the new mother sexually? I mean, I am a mother, so I have a lot of thoughts on this, but you've interviewed tens of thousands. I don't know. So I'd love to hear your take on this.
The one thing that, let's just go back a little bit, go back in history. When a woman got pregnant, then she really was that crossover between, a wife, oh, now you're a mother. Mm-hmm. And everything about mother wasn't sexual. Mm-hmm. So what we had is, and yet it's also, let's disguise the bump, as if you could disguise it, with something that, looks like, a schooner under full sail. I mean, come on.
Some women do a pretty good job, but some.
But, now it's like people are like, let's embrace our baby bump. Let's put it on display.
It's true. It wasn't always like that.
Which is much more of the body imaging, the awareness that this is very much a part of what's coming forward. There's a woman that I know by the name of Nancy Redd, R-E-D-D. Mm-hmm. And she has just written a book about, and I think she calls it Pregnancy OMG. And having had 2 children.
Yeah.
And she said, these are the things no one ever talked about. She said, no one told me that these things, and how I met her as I was being interviewed. She was on HuffPost Live, and she was interviewing a group of us. But the thing about pregnant women is there was a study done, University, I believe, of Newfoundland. Mm-hmm. And what they looked at is the increase in, are the pregnancy hormones having women want more sex? Mm-hmm. Well, for about 40% of the women, yes. Mm. For other women, no. Mm-hmm. But what it also, I've had many women tell me, share their pregnancy orgasms were the best. Mm-hmm. And took longer to get there, but they were the best. And that makes sense. What do you think powers an orgasm?
Yeah.
Blood and oxygen. And there's a lot more pooling in the pelvic area when you're pregnant. Plus, estrogen. So every part of your skin is more sensitive. It's like, whoa. So what I let women know is like, listen, you have in the same way you go through menarche, get your period, it's the same way you go through a pregnancy. And each pregnancy is not the same. There may be one where you are like a complete horn dog, and another where it's like, do not touch me. And yet, if a woman has a healthy, stable pregnancy, there's no reason not to be having sex. There's no, I mean, the baby's not going to feel it, trust me. Many men think that. The baby has no idea what you're doing. How do you think the baby got there in the first place? But
the long cervix protecting it and bag of waters and
yeah. And the reason I wrote Hot Mamas, which was my fifth book, is because what I saw, Lauren, is the majority of, and I heard this statistic before, majority of separations and divorces occur within 2 years of the birth of a child. Now, it may not be the first child, may not be the second child, because what happens is the entire dynamic of the relationship shifts when there's a third person that comes in. The other thing I ask them to do, please, 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 if you want to be a parent, say that. Do not say, I want to be a partner. And when really, the elephant in the room is that you want to have a child. And that's not strictly for women.
Oh, I was just going to say that. I know men who have married women who said, oh, I'll have a baby once we get married, but they'd never wanted kids, and they do not a good mother make. So yeah, you need to be really clear. And you know, I especially see in my generation, a lot of people that are very conscious that they don't want kids and being very upfront about that. And it's so important. Yeah.
And because what I tell people is I said, listen, if you want to be a parent, find someone who wants to create family. You are going to be aligned. You're going to be looking in the same direction. Much better chance for your relationship. You know what your focus is going to be. But if it's really about you just wanting to have a child, this person is going to become an ancillary satellite very quickly.
Yeah.
And I was doing a presentation down in Costa Mesa. Anyways, wherever it was. And I made the comment that sometimes you will see that, and men will, you know, they want a womb with a view. You know, those men who really want to have a child. And this one woman said, that was my son. She said he didn't care about what was happening with the wife, but he wanted that child. And
yeah, it's something I talk a lot about in my second book, The New American Family, you know, all of these dynamics. And I think it's so interesting, you know, because you're talking about what's really like, the conversation is about sex, but you're really talking about the humans and the desires and the incompatibilities underneath that. And then women will say, oh, I'm pregnant, that's why I don't want it. And I think it's so important for people to be more honest and more real and go, no, actually pregnant women want sex. It can feel amazingly sexy how large your breasts get, how curvy you are, you're engorged, you're more, all of that. And it's exciting to become a mother. I mean, if you feel good and you're not, you know, nauseated all the time and all of that, and you
the veil of nausea.
And you feel good with your partner. Pregnant women are very sexual, and the prostaglandins from semen at the end of pregnancy help to efface and thin the cervix, and oxytocin, the orgasm of the orgasm hormone, helps to bring on labor. So there's all these great benefits. And then again, going into the postpartum, again, it just pains me when I hear couples unintentionally celibate, as you said, and not having sex, and the woman going, well, I had a baby. And I'm like, let's just be honest. You just don't want to have sex with this person because, or you're not creating time for pleasure and connection in your relationship in your life because, I had a baby and my sexuality didn't go anywhere. It was right there, but it's also something I prioritize. I make time for. I enjoy that connection.
You had the intention and you followed through and you knew what you were going to do. The other thing, if women think that they having an orgasm is going to initiate labor, I will use Dr. Jules Black, who helped me with Hot Mamas. He's an OBGYN out of Australia. He's fabulously funny. And he said, look, I'm going to use the analogy of fruit on a tree. In the beginning phases of the pregnancy, the apple's on the tree.
Yeah.
The wind can't blow it off. It's not going to, the rainstorm's not going to do it. Animal walking by is not going to do it.
Yeah.
But as it gets riper, and he said that's analogous to what is happening with the cervix.
Ripening, yeah.
You know, the patent cervix, it has to soften, and then, you know, but only when the fruit is ready to drop does it drop.
Mm-hmm.
So it isn't something that, you know, if you are close to, you know, being ready to go into labor, that can. But the prostaglandins, and if they are using a product to initiate and bring on, like a drip to bring on labor, it is like 1,000 times more powerful than what is in semen. I mean, it's
absolutely. Yeah.
a chemical cocktail.
Yeah.
But for most women, there's a change in their bodies that they're kind of like, whoa, I was not expecting this. What happened to my nipples? Whose thighs are these? You know? And if they had body issues before, this is likely going to exacerbate it. But they have to be realistic with themselves. I love the fact that Catherine Middleton comes out of the hospital with the baby bump still showing while she's holding her new, you know, little guy.
Yeah.
But she also had to get out of there because she doesn't have any privacy.
Yeah, but she is a great role model for just, I love the sensual sexual energy that she has as a woman, as a mother, as a part. Like, I think she is a great role model for women having babies. And there's a lot of great role models now for women who are like, I don't lose myself, my sexuality, my independence, my identity. Yes, I'm a mother, and you can have a child-centered home and not be the martyr or the Virgin Mary or, you know, these older archetypal images of the mother. It's like, no wonder we have the Madonna whore complex in some men too, that are like, oh, she's pregnant, I can't have sex with her.
Touch her.
Yeah.
You know, and I've had women who have told me they wanted very much to maintain, you know, the sexual connection during their pregnancy, but their husband didn't want to touch them.
I've heard this too. Yeah.
And they, you know, so they had to do something else, or, you know, they usually don't need to use any form of lubricant when they're pregnant.
Yeah, but you do when you're breastfeeding. When you're breastfeeding, you definitely want to pick up. That was the first time I ever used lube, was when I was breastfeeding. I was like,
because all of the crash of all of the estrogen and everything, and the tissue.
Yeah, it is. But a lot of women too share. You know, I think women are afraid, oh, after I have a baby, you know, sex is going to be different. My vagina is not going to be the same. All of that. And I think it's important to keep spreading the message that no, sex can be even better. If there is any tearing, you know, your body heals. It's amazing. You start using that muscle again. And I love this from Masters and Johnson's work. You know, they're like, if you're having sex regularly, you know, whatever that means for you, if you're using those muscles, then you're going to maintain those muscles. And if you don't, and the lubrication that flows and all of that, and if you don't use it, you will lose it. But
but it's also something that, depending on each woman, that thing of the 6 weeks you're ready to be sexual, let's nip that in the bud, okay? Because for some women, they're, you know, they have had that crash, the crash of hormones, they're losing their hair, they're nursing, their nipples are cracked, they've got something else going on, and they're just trying to heal.
Yeah.
So it really is about, each case has to be, you know, dealt with, but it has to be honestly with someone. So, and when I talk to women, I'll say, listen, you're going to go on a roller coaster ride with this one. There's going to be things that you will not expect, but there's different positions you can use. You can maintain things one way. You can use bolsters. You can do, you know. But the important thing is, if you want to maintain sexual connection, you can.
And sex is not penis and a vagina. Like, this is one of the big things I talk about in the new sex education. We all want to go there in our heads because that's how we've been conditioned. Sex, it's like, what do you see? You see a penis and a vagina. But, you know, or, you know, even talking about orgasm that brings on labor. For me, it was some deep kissing that brought on my labor, like, very quickly. And that can be, and that was the first thing I was doing after I gave birth too. And that, you know, cuddling or, you know, hand jobs for either sex or oral sex for either sex, and finding your body again and your new sensitivity, and, you know, exploring and being connected in so many ways. And if you want penetration, then you explore that too at the moment that's right for you.
Correct. I mean, I had one of my neighbors they were Orthodox Jews.
Mm.
So as soon as she had her period, she couldn't be touched. They had to sleep in separate beds.
Mm.
And they were their bed was right up against where mine was. So I knew they were very active. And it was like, you guys, I'm tired.
Or you gotta have a white noise machine in your room too.
Right. Yeah. A little thing from, I lived in New York. I know white noise. Yeah. Anyway, she had her first child, and she said, and here's the thing, when you are pregnant, yes, your genitals are going to change. There's an engorgement of blood. It may change in color. You may have the, lines, and, and then post-pregnancy, they may be, a slightly different shape. Also, depending on, what type of a labor you had, or if you, did cesarean. But what she found is her husband, she loved oral sex. Mm-hmm. And he would regularly go down on her. But she said it wasn't until all of a sudden he moved the hood of my clitoris, and she said, bam, that, when he was going down on me, she said, I hadn't had an orgasm like that for about 9 months. And she said she was close, but it wasn't that same sensitivity. So there had been a change in shape for her. So you have to, learn again. You're, beginner with a mom body.
Right. And this goes on all throughout our lives. Our clitoris is increasing in size. I thought that's amazing. From puberty to menopause, our clitoris, including all the internal tissue, just keeps growing. I mean, men, their erections are changing, and our bodies are just, we're constantly evolving into these new people and new bodies and new creatures, new turn-ons. Like, it's and I think that's so fun about it. Like, it's this never-ending journey of being sexual creatures. And
right. And the more information that people have, the more confidence they have. And if they know that they don't have to know everything, and if they are aware that as long as they have a willingness to learn or experiment, and going back to women saying, oh, I want to talk about my fantasies. Well, look, you drive down a road and you fantasize about living in that house. You see an outfit and you go, ooh, I would look splendid in that. You would see something, a dish being made, and you go, oh, I could hardly wait to try that out. So we have that thing of fantasizing about things on an ongoing basis every day.
Yeah.
So why is there this thing of you're not supposed to have it in your sex life? But I will tell you, it has become much easier for many people, particularly, under 40. There's a lot more permission to try things, to maybe have an open relationship and then maybe to close it, to have, to try something with women or try something here, whether, you want to call yourself, however you identify, that's yours.
Yeah.
Not someone else's. And don't have someone else tell you you're supposed to be a particular way. Let me be really clear here. Organized religion has done a crap job when it comes to teaching people about their bodies, their sexuality. And human sexuality is one of the most important things about you. And they have done a garbage job, and they know it. They know it.
You really strike a deep chord in me with that, because as anyone who's read anything of mine know that I come from a very religious background, and so I've had to do a lot of work to re-educate myself, and there's still just that foundation of your sexuality is important, and it's beautiful, and it's individual, and it's sacred, and it's kinky, and it's all of these things, and to and so just hearing someone like you say it, it's like, I think we just need to hear that again and again from peer types, from maternal types, from paternal types. We need to hear that we're okay, we can be ourselves, and it's the foundation of our sexual health, our mental health, our happiness.
When people are not able to be who they are sexually, whether it is if they feel that they are gay, but they can't be gay in their culture, they can't be bisexual. They can't be something because of these so-called norms.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the toughest things for them to be.
Mm-hmm.
They can't be trans. They can't be who they know they are.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, thank goodness we do have, you know, organizations. What's the Trevor Project?
Mm-hmm.
Great for these kids.
Mm-hmm.
And Dan Savage, the
Mm-hmm.
Savage Report,
Mm-hmm.
great for that.
Mm-hmm.
But what we need is for people to be able to be who they feel they are.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise they get sick.
Yeah.
I'm surprised Caitlyn Jenner never got sick.
Mm.
Because the day after, when she was bruised, the day after she won the gold medal as the decathlete, comment was, I'm standing in front of this, like the ultimate uber male that is standing there going, fully nude in front of it and going, now what do I do? Now what do I do? And many times for the people I know, I was the past president of the, it's at the University of Minnesota, the Leadership Council on Human Sexuality, at the program in human sexuality, part of their med school. And there are a number of people, it's one of the best places from a therapy standpoint and research in the area of transsexuality and transgender. And they are one of the things that has been an ongoing story that I've heard from the people who have finally come out is that they will go into something, if they are male, but they really feel that they are female, they will go into something that is uber male. They'll go into the military, they will go into being a cop, they will go into something that is just, you know, the athlete no one will ever call into question.
Yeah.
And then when they finally have a time when a parent may die and they finally go, I can now do it.
Yeah.
They feel that they are finally themselves. And they knew this about themselves from the time they were tiny, you know, 2, 3, 4 years old. They knew. And people kept telling them, And one of the other people on the Leadership Council is Dr. Joycelyn Elders. And she's the former Surgeon General of the United States. And in her military training, she saw a lot of intersexed and a lot of gender non-conforming baby. And she said, this is something, that's what had her go into endocrinology. She was a pediatric endocrinologist and looking at that. But she said, there were so many variables that were never talked about.
Yeah.
So for parents, parenting a child, knowing you have got to get really comfortable with your own sexuality so you do not pass on those corrupt messages to your children.
Yes. It's something I talk about so much as a parent, and there's not this conversation you have with your kids about sex when they're 7 or 12 or 15. Like my daughter's 3 now, and every day is I'm teaching her about her sexuality and her body, and she sees me get my period, and she knows, like, I mean, just we talk about body parts and all things and reproduction, and it's so wonderful and fantastic to have that open dialogue, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
Well,
and
you know, lucky her.
She is a lucky girl, yeah. And I know a lot of, you know, conscious parents but still people have a lot of work to do on their sexuality. You see some people that look very sexually open because they're very sexy, and they have a lot of hangups. And we have a lot of work to do as a culture, and we have a lot of coping mechanisms, like what you talked about, someone who goes, you know, hyper masculine to cope with how feminine they feel, or people that just overeat, or they become workaholics because they don't feel safe to express their sexual self that's kinky or bi or, you know, whatever it is. And yeah, we need to create communities and safe places to talk about it. I know still when I walk into an LGBT clinic, I sometimes feel so moved by the permission in that little subculture, you know, microcosmic space that I can be myself, that I sometimes am just like moved to tears. And then I realize, like, wow, out in the world, there's all of these subtle, silent messages that are telling me how to be and saying that how I am is not really okay. You know, I really just need to be a heterosexual married woman, you know, or whatever, and you know, whatever that story is. So so thank you for bringing that part up of this.
Because I think when people know they have permission,
Mm,
if only one person tells them,
yes.
they've heard it.
Yes. That's what I tell people when they say, well, what is sexual coaching? I'm like, a huge part of it, I mean, is permission, just giving them permission to be themselves. There's the education part. There's normalizing their sexuality. And, you know, and with the permission, you know, permission to explore, permission to masturbate, permission to discover who they are. So with the education piece to close, you know, you've written all of these great books and have all this great content. Where would you recommend people go to learn more from your work, or what would be a good book to start with?
Well, I have 5 books, and the first book is based on the ladies' seminar.
Okay.
And that's how to be a great lover.
Mm-hmm.
Girlfriend to girlfriend, totally explicit techniques that will blow his mind.
Okay.
And they're illustrated step by step with the techniques, with line drawings.
Okay.
So that someone doesn't look at it and go like this, oh my God, there's a body. I can look at it and go, oh, I could do that. Okay, that makes sense. This, you know, the second book, How to Give Her Absolute Pleasure, is based on my men's seminar.
Okay.
And the men's seminar came straight out of the ladies' seminar.
Okay.
And the reason I started doing them is people said, you have too much information. You need to start doing these seminars. I didn't want to do them because I didn't want to be judged that, you know, who are you? You know, you don't have a Ph.D. You're not a doctor. Why are you talking about sexuality? I said, because people asked me to.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't my aim to do. But I had the hard sciences background and I had the information, not based on me, because I don't talk about me.
Yeah.
Ugh, never. Because what, you know, and you and I probably both know this, that if you were talking about your own experiences and trying to guide someone with it, their brain goes to you doing it. Like a little bubble on the side of their head. So the one way that I describe it is, my books are like a buffet of ideas. Sometimes you want, you know, a whole meal. Sometimes you just want an appetizer. Sometimes you want this, because our sexuality is also an appetite.
Yeah.
So the second book is based on the men's seminar. My third book, Orgasms, how to have them, give them, and keep them coming, was based on people not having all of the information about orgasms in one place. So, you know, women are capable of having 11 different types of orgasms, men, 9. We just have to be a little more complicated.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to do it, as Dr. Beverly Whipple said, when she vetted my book, and she said, Lou, you didn't miss a thing. I was like, whoa, because, you know, she and Lattice Can and Perry named the G-spot the G-spot. So that book was so that people could have their own experiences validated. And it didn't have to be, you are going to have someone else's orgasm. Women have what they call an orgasmic fingerprint. And this is from researchers who were just north of San Diego. And they created it to describe how uniquely each woman orgasms. And it's Hartman, Fithian, and Campbell. So that's what I wanted people to know, is that I wanted to validate what the experiences were. Because people would say to me, I'm having this orgasm this way. Is that normal? And I'm like, did you enjoy yourself?
Yeah.
It's not. And to show that, yes, there is a full range of how people's bodies experience pleasure. And my fourth book is The Great Lover Playbook. And that's based on attitudes, behaviors, tips, techniques, toys that people who consider themselves great lovers shared with me. And the genesis of the book came about because people said, people must tell you everything. I said, they do. They said, why don't you do that?
Yeah.
That's what people want to know.
Yeah.
So they're, you know, divided into, and literally, if this didn't work for someone, it is not in that book. So, and they're little snippets. You don't have to read the whole thing. You can just delve into whatever area you want. And then my fifth book is Hot Mamas. And that was because I saw people pulling apart when there was a child. And they didn't have the information to connect again after. So my books have really got created because people asked me to do them.
Yeah.
It wasn't, being a writer wasn't my thing.
Yeah.
it occurred sort of organically.
I felt the same way with writing. I was like, this is coming through me and I have to write it down. I did not plan to do that or study that in school, and get better with every book I write. But yeah, when it comes through you, I mean, this
comes through, it's just like,
yeah. And so much has come through you. So thank you for everything that you've shared today and for all of your books, and
my pleasure.
Below so people can find it. And again, thank you for everything you share and you stand for. This is really great.
Right. And they can find stuff on my website at loupaget.com.
Okay. Fantastic. Thanks so much for joining us, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.